Okay, then good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So previous class, I told you about Constituent Assembly. When did we form the Constituent Assembly? In which year? Anybody? No one knows which year it was formed. Which year?
1946.
1946. Our government, not our government, during the time of Britishers itself, you can see that the formation of Constituent Assembly. For what purpose we formed Constituent Assembly? What was the purpose of forming Constituent Assembly?
Ma'am, for the drafting of the Constitution.
For the drafting of the Constitution. Okay. Now in 1946, the Constitution was, Constituent Assembly was formed. But you can see that the Constituent Assembly was divided into two. What was the reason?
Ma'am, the partition of the country.
The partition of India into India and Pakistan, or partition of country into India and Pakistan. Because of that reason, Constituent Assembly also was divided into two. That is one for India and another for Pakistan. Okay. Next, when did we finished framing the Constitution?
26 November 1949.
26 November 1949. Okay. But did we introduce that time?
No.
Okay. When did we introduce?
26 January.
26
Republic Day.
1950.
January 1950. Okay. What was the reason why we introduced on that day? Why the leaders chose that day?
INC proclaimed the Declaration of Indian Independence.
Yeah, INC. Yeah. Which year? Somewhat?
1929.
1929. That time they proclaimed the independence of India. That was done on January 26th. So to remember it, or to commemorate that day, we chose January 26th as the introduction of Constitution. And from that day onwards, we are celebrating Republic Day for our country. Okay, now there are various reasons we say that why we are accepting the Constitution even today. There were a few reasons I told you, because Constitution was framed, if you see from now, Constitution was framed somewhat 70-75 years back. Okay, or 73 years back it is. But if you see related to the clause or related to the rules and regulation, it was, we can have a feeling that it is outdated. But still, we are following the Constitution in our country. What are the reasons for that? What are the reasons for that?
Can you repeat that question?
When I still see Constitution, when it was framed 1950, I mean, they started framing much before. So that means somewhat 70 years back, right? But still we are following that Constitution. What is the reason for that?
Ma'am, for the smooth functioning of the country.
For the smooth, why we have not brought such changes in the Constitution? That's what I'm asking. Why we are accepting still today that Constitution? Okay, so next is about what are the reasons for accepting Constitution even today? Because it is somewhat 70 years back we framed the Constitution. Still today we are accepting the Constitution of our country. There are various reasons for it. Okay, so many countries, if we compare, they rewrote the Constitution. They felt that the Constitution, it was outdated. Some of the basic rules, what they have written in the Constitution, that is not acceptable for everyone. So because of that reasons, in some countries it was rewritten. Okay, some other countries, what we can see, that Constitution is now a piece of paper. There is not much importance is given to constitution. No one is actually following it. So in some countries, the situation is like that. No value at all for the constitution. Okay, it's just a piece of paper, or what is written in that, nobody is following that. So that is the situations which is prevalent in some countries. Some they rewrote it, because the reason what they are telling, what they have written some years back, that is not acceptable for everyone, so they have to change it. Another one reason I told that, even though some countries constitution is there, nobody is actually following it. It is just like a piece of paper. Nobody wants to follow it. So this is a few things you can see related to the framing of constitution. But this is not the situation of constitution in our country. Okay, in our country, everyone follows constitution, or the constitution makers, they wrote in such a way that we need not change, or we brought some changes maybe, but drastically we did not change the constitution, or nobody till questioned the authority of the constitution. So still the constitution of our country is working properly, or it is not that difficult to follow the rules and regulations what is written in the constitution. So first thing, reasons for accepting the Indian constitution is that when we talk about the laws, rules and regulations, what is written in the constitution, it is not the idea of members alone. You know that in the Constituent Assembly, there were many members, but it doesn't reflect only the views of members. They discussed with the people, they discussed with many people, and you can see it was the ideas what they introduced, it was with the knowledge of almost all the people of our country. So a lot of discussion was there before the introduction of constitution, or we say that it shows a broad consensus of its time. Broad consensus in the sense a broad agreement was there among the people about the things what to be written in the constitution. So here, still now, that's what I told, that nobody has questioned the authority of constitution, not even a political party, no social group, not a large group of people. They have not questioned the authority of the constitution. So we can say that we will accept the constitution of our country, because it includes a particular or broad agreement of all the people. That is why we say that constitution will be accepted by everyone. There is no need to change anything from in the constitution. Another one thing what they say, that if you see the constitution or constituent assembly, they had the work of framing constitution. Okay, so they represented the members from different political parties. Which party was there more prominent in our country?
Indian National Congress.
Indian National Congress. But even though Indian National Congress was the prominent party,
Can you show that slide?
they included, yeah, even though Indian National Congress was the more prominent major party in our country, they included many other people from different parties, or different religion, different social status. Like that, many people were included in the framing of constitution. It's not that it was all these decisions were taken by only one small group of people. It was not like that. So this members who were there in the Constituent Assembly, they were from different language group, they were from different caste, they were from different classes, different religion, and different occupations. So everybody's consent or agreement was taken into consideration for framing the constitution. So one reason what we say that we don't want to disapprove or reject our Indian constitution is that every area was taken into consideration by the leaders or members of the Constituent Assembly. So we need not reject it, or we have to accept, or we can accept our constitution. Okay, so this is the first point. Next one, the way in which the constitution or constituent assembly worked. It gives sanctity to the constitution. When we say sanctity, it gives holiness to the constitution. Okay, they worked in such a manner, they worked in a unique manner for bringing the good things in the constitution. So they worked in a systematic manner, in an open manner, in a consensual manner, in the sense any disagreement is there, they will discuss it out in an open manner. Whatever they were discussing, that was transparent. Everybody could know what was happening in the Constituent Assembly. So they worked in such a manner, it made everyone to accept the Constitution. They worked in a systematic manner, open manner, consensual manner. So like this, it gave sanctity to the Constitution, or we said it gave holiness to the Constitution. So because of that reason, there is no point that we have to reject the Constitution. Just let me show you. I will show you. I will show you. Huh? What is that? Say. What did you say? I didn't hear.
Sanctity meaning.
Sanctity means holy, holiness actually. Okay. So that is at most, what do you say? They were dedicated to the, upon they are agreeing removal of inequality, but the way how it should be removed, they were not accepting it. I mean, it was not same for Gandhiji and Ambedkar.
Yeah. Document that undergoes amendments. Just any book has a preface. Similarly.
Okay. Now next, related to these are the reasons which I told you. Next one, what they did when they started preparing the Constitution.
Can you show that slide last?
This one?
Yes, ma'am.
This one. Okay, so here the people of our Constituent Assembly, you can see that they were working in a very sanctified manner, and I told that there were some elected members. When they were elected, during that time elections were held actually to elect the members to Constituent Assembly. But what do you think, that everyone were involved in the election? No, everyone, they were not involved in the elections, but a group of people, they selected or they put their vote for electing the members of Constituent Assembly. And main party, main party was Indian National Congress, but at the same time, they gave others also a chance to be in the Constituent Assembly. That is one point. Another one, they were agreeing upon all the important points, like 3 important points we told you, like universal adult franchise, right to freedom and equality, rights for the minorities, all these things they were agreeing upon. Okay, so the way they worked, we can see that it was very good. All were united, even though they had some differences of opinion. Everyone united together and framed the Constitution. Okay, so some basic principles were decided, then everyone agreed upon it. Okay, then drafting committee, I told that it was the chairperson was Dr. Ambedkar. He prepared the draft Constitution for discussion. Okay, so before framing the Constitution, they made a draft one. Draft one in the sense only outlines will be there, important points only will be there. They drafted that. Now, after drafting it, you can see that has put for discussion. So each clause by clause, paragraph by paragraph, lots of discussion took place in the Constitution or in the draft Constitution on this Constituent Assembly. And you can see that more than 2,000 amendments were brought. Okay, so this draft constitution, you know that it is not the original one. They have only the subtopics and main points are there. There itself, you can see more than 2000 amendments were done. What do you mean by more than 2000 amendments here? What do you mean by amendments? Hmm? What do you mean by amendments?
The basic rules and all.
Amendments in the sense, not here, 2000 amendments in the sense, the changes what they brought. Okay, see in the constitution, there is a regulation. Okay, for example, you know that what is the marriage age of a girl in our country? What is the marriage age? Hmm? What is the marriage age of a girl in our country?
18.
18. Okay. So if they wanted to bring any change in that, we call it as amendment. Okay. So any changes in the existing law, we call it as amendment. So this draft constitution, you can see how many amendments they have introduced.
More than 2000.
More than
More than
2000 amendments. And you understand that this is not the original constitution. Okay, so 2000 amendments were brought forward and were considered, and you can see that they were discussing and they were thinking how to bring the changes, how to introduce the changes and all. Okay, now members, if you see,
last slide.
members, they sat for 114 days. Okay, 114 days they sat for discussion. And it was more than these 114 days. They discussed and they debated. They were thinking how to bring a good law for our country, how to bring rules and regulations. They were going on thinking. Okay, so 114 days they sat, everyone sat together and they discussed. Now when I say 114 days, it is not in 1 year, almost it was spread over 3 years. So somewhat 3 years they met. 3 years continuously, can they sit or what? No, they cannot sit like that for continuously for these many days. So in between they may leave, they may go like that. 114 days every leaders or they all sat together, discussed by clause, and they brought the changes here. Okay, so somewhat 114 days they sat for the preparation of constitution. Now, whenever they present a document, whenever they speak regarding constitution, everything they have recorded and preserved. They have recorded and preserved. They have written down. They preserved that. So that these whatever is there constituent, these all these things we call it as constituent assembly debates. Okay, so whatever they speak, debate, everything was discussed, debated, and recorded. And these we call it as constituent assembly debates. Now, after this recording, what they did, they took a print of it, and you can see that these debates are 12 volumes, 12 bulky volumes, it seems. Okay, that much big printed notes we have regarding the constitution. Now, these things are used to interpret the meaning of constitution. Okay, so that means whatever finally we have written, it will have some inner meanings and all. So to understand that, these interpretations were used. These changes were used here. Okay, so maybe to know why they have introduced this particular clause, to know about it, we can refer the debates on the constitution. So these whatever recorded and printed and preserved, if we refer, we can really understand the meaning of constitution, or we can really understand what they meant by that particular rule or clause in the constitution.
And that first 2 points, can you explain once again?
This one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the members deliberated in the sense the members, they met for 114 days. That was spread over somewhat 3 years. So somewhat 3 years they took for completing the constitution. Now in that, every document, whatever they presented, every word what they spoke in Constituent Assembly related to Constitution, okay, that is recorded and preserved. Still, till now, we have all those things with us. And all those we call it as Constituent Assembly debates. So when we took a print of that, how many volumes we got? So what?
12 bulk.
Yeah, 12 bulky volumes, it seems. That means bulky in the sense large, it shows that large. So all these things we are using for interpreting the meaning of constitution.